Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL strategy show presented by PrizePicks. Talking ownership, top stacks today, Wednesday afternoon, getting our first look, our first run of all of that over on Stokastic.com, and we're going to break it down. I am Dave Loughran at Laffy_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D, joined by Neil Orfield, the showdown shaman himself, but today we talk main slate. Follow him at PlayerQ DFS. And of course, check out all the other stuff, showdown content that he's doing on the Contrary Show every Friday, right here on the channel and over at Stokastic. What's happening, man?
Not a whole lot. I got through your show with Ben yesterday. It was a very entertaining one for me. I know some people don't like all the side stuff, the conspiracy theories, but I was enjoying it. And hearing you talking about sleep paralysis, I'm like, I have experienced that exactly. I didn't know that was a thing, that like you see a figure on top of you. When I was a child, like in like maybe 9-10 years old.
But you couldn't move, right?
Couldn't move, and like swore that there was somebody on top of me. Like there was something that I saw. And of course I barely remember it now, but I had that happen to me once. It was very scary.
Yeah, man, it is. Yeah. Ben got some lessons yesterday.
We all learned a little bit.
It was fun. Look, those are good conversations to have. You know, we got through everything. It's a Tuesday show. It's going to happen. And we're going to talk ownership today. I probably won't dig too deep down into that rabbit hole, but or fall too deep down into that rabbit hole with anything. But we got a lot to get into. You know, it's one of these weird slates where you actually have some considerably big. Like, does Ezekiel Elliott play? Number one. My guess is maybe. Like, I don't know.
My guess is also maybe.
Who?
I said my guess is also maybe.
Yeah, I had him out I did not think he was going to play last week. Whenever a player, I talked about this with Chris Paul on Monday when we were on the NBA Deeper Dive. Whenever a player expresses some pessimism, I'll take that over what the coaches say any day of the week, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let's see what he says. Cooper Kupp being out, ankle surgery on the IR. Does Matthew Stafford play? My assumption on that one is yes. So there are definitely a few spots here that are going to get very, very interesting heading into this week 11 slate. You know, there's another one too, and I can't remember what it was. God, who was it? Oh, Khalil Herbert's out as well.
Yeah.
So do we target that Chicago backfield? You want to dive straight into this with a little running back, or should we take a look at the Millie Maker winner real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Let's pull it up.
All right. So I have it pulled up, and I can assure you that this is a different looking lineup. Now, it's not to say that it's bad. Of course, it won $1 million. Guy only played 5 lineups. We've seen a ton this season of Millie Maker winners with 1, 2, 3 lineups, 5 lineups like this one. Justin Fields at 29%. Tony Pollard was 26% owned. Jeff Wilson was 11% owned. That surprised me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk at 20%. George Pickens was 10. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 17. And then Travis Kelce at 16%, Christian Watson at 2%, big breakout game. Vikings at 16. So Vikings against Buffalo. Justin Fields with nothing attached, 0 stack, no Cole Kmet. That was really surprising, especially since he paid up for Kelce, and Kelce was just, kind of okay, but he did have a run back in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So very interesting lineup, took down $1 million.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now from your run sheet. It's not, I have to admit, it's not my favorite lineup in the world. I think that, Justin Fields, if you're not running him with somebody, do you even need to bring back? But the more important part of the stack is obviously the pass catcher to go with quarterback. Of course, this lineup won $1 million. So anytime we're talking about a lineup negatively, we are nitpicking a little bit, but Justin Fields with nobody. I'm not a fan of running out the naked quarterback. And obviously, I think Cole Kmet probably outscored Travis Kelce. I'm not actually 100% sure of that, but at least was right there with Travis Kelce. So I'm pretty surprised to see that a naked Justin Fields lineup won in that context. You do see some correlation there with Tony Pollard and Christian Watson. So another level of correlation there. Did George Pickens have a game? I didn't even notice that George Pickens did anything. Maybe I don't know.
He finished with 14 and a half fantasy points. He did have a rushing touchdown, which salvaged there. And yes,
that's right.
Cole Kmet did have a couple more fantasy points than Travis Kelce. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, happenstance, I guess, that he made it. Justin Fields, the naked lineup, made it there. But yeah, I mean, Vikings defense against the Bills with Josh Allen active was pretty risky. I can't believe it was 16% owned. The only real non-chalky piece here, though, the contrarian piece was Christian Watson, which obviously went fantastically. So that was a great call and probably what kind of carried him to the Millie Maker. I mean, obviously nitpicking when we say I don't love the lineup, but there are some good pieces to this lineup for sure. And obviously it worked out great because he won a Millie.
Yeah, I would never get to that.
I wouldn't either.
But yeah, I get I can understand running naked Justin Fields, but with the run back paying up, $7K for a receiver was kind of crazy. But hey, it worked, and I haven't won $1 million, so you have. Was that on a showdown slate?
No, that was on a main slate back in 2020, I think.
Was it this one or was it the what's that?
2020. Yeah, it was 2020 when I won it.
Was it this one or was it the higher stakes one?
It was this one. Yeah. So it was the 220,000 person field main slate. It was also a unique one because there was the game that had been on Sunday afternoon was Cardinals versus Seahawks, and that was flex to Sunday night. So I actually got to watch like the one game and sweat it, probably as good of a sweat as you can possibly have on one of these main slates. So that was pretty fun.
Wait, they included that in the night slate because it got flexed?
They included it on the main slate because it had already.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, the night game.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a weird one where the Sunday Night Football was included on the main slate. So that was pretty fun.
Because they used to do that. Every slate used to be like that.
Did they really on DraftKings? I remember they used to do that for Yahoo for years after it wasn't the case on DraftKings. I did not remember that was the case for DraftKings. Yeah,
DraftKings used to have every single game on Sunday in the main slate for a while too, for several years. Thank God they don't anymore.
Yeah, I'm really glad they don't.
But you were that day, so yeah, I get it. All right, let's talk running backs here. Before we do, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Leave a comment down below if you're watching after the fact. Subscribe to the channel. All that stuff helps us immensely, and we appreciate you. Plus, you get to subscribe to the biggest DFS channel out there. We're constantly putting out content, trying to help you guys out, maybe provide a little entertainment along the way. And if you're listening to podcast form, subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, a review. All that stuff helps us a lot. All right, let's talk about running backs here. First up at the top, you've got Dameon Pierce. I get it. The only concern with Dameon Pierce is, number one, Washington's run defense isn't that bad. And while this should be a low scoring, competitive game, it should also be low scoring. The touchdown equity with Dameon Pierce is always something that I think we have to evaluate going into these spots when he's going to be right now the chalkiest running back on the slate.
You have him as I'm wondering if my boom bust is wrong or what, because I just refreshed. I have him as the fifth.
Oh, you know what? I had asked Alex to update it earlier, right after I had put some of these guys in.
It says that it was updated 20 hours ago. So
well, no, because ownership, he was at 20. I'm positive he was at 23% earlier.
Okay.
But it looks like I'm just looking on the ownership tool itself.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not the boom bust tool, but Dameon Pierce was now 15.7% in this run of ownership. So still up there. Saquon Barkley now getting the most ownership. It's a weird slate, though. There's not a lot of value anywhere. So you're talking Barkley and Jacobs up around 18%. Mixon also at 18%. And then Ramondre Stevenson, Dameon Pierce rounding out that 15 and up range. Yeah.
So, I mean, we can start with Dameon Pierce. He actually looks really good in the tools now that we have the ownership down at 15.7%, which I think is reasonable. I don't think it's going to be much more than that.
Me too. 23 was a lot to me.
Yeah. So we have positive. We actually have him in the optimal 23% of the time. So we actually have positive leverage on this 16% projected ownership. As you said, though, it's not the best spot in the world. It's I guess a volume play because he just gets so much volume for Houston, but it is a tough spot against a Commanders defense that is essentially a pass funnel. Makes it a little bit tough, although he has been more involved in the passing game recently, so maybe you factor that in a little bit. But Commanders D, second against the rush in terms of DVOA, so not the best spot in the world, and the price has come up to 6,500. But we still do have positive leverage. So assuming this holds, assuming nothing opens up, I'm probably going to be at least with maybe a little bit above the field on Dameon Pierce, even though I I question it a little bit. There's a part of me that wants to fade, but he looks great in the tools, and you got to trust the tools and got to trust the volume. Volume is king for running backs. So yeah, I'll probably eat some of that ownership. How do you feel about it?
At 15%, yeah. Look, you're going to be hard pressed to find good players at reasonable price points. I think this is the tightest I probably have seen DraftKings pricing all year, just given that there's not a ton of value. So that it makes plenty of sense to me. I saw some questions about Eno Benjamin because he was released by the Arizona Cardinals. Now he's on the Texans. Am I concerned about that? No, not in week one for sure. But Dameon Pierce is the guy that Lovie Smith has wanted to get the football to every single game. So to be honest, I don't really think that is a huge thing to concern yourself with. Also, we saw at the trade deadline, right around the same time that we've seen a lot of these running backs come to new teams and just not get a lot of work in their first week. Like Latavius Murray didn't play at all in his first week. That was before the deadline. Then he started getting a lot of work. We haven't seen Marlon Mack do anything. Zach Moss. You could run through a list. So no, I don't think you're going to see that. We've seen Dameon Pierce get 20 plus looks now in 7 straight games. That's enough for me to assume he'll keep getting volume.
Yeah, I think he'll still get volume. He's still going to be clearly the primary back, and he hasn't done anything to lose that role. I mean, he rushed 17 times this past game for 94 yards. The game before that, 27 for 139. So he's been effective at least the past couple of games. The week prior, not as good, 15 for 35. So maybe some warts on the profile, but the last couple of games, he's just been really effective. So they don't really have any reason to go away from him unless they are just thinking, they want to bring in a back who is capable as a secondary piece just to keep him fresh to some extent. Maybe you don't want to be giving him those 27 carries that he saw a couple weeks ago, but in general, yeah, it's not a big concern for me. I think he's probably still the primary ball handler.
A couple of other guys worth discussing here at the top. There's no one's getting insane ownership right now. You've got Barkley, like I said, you have Joe Mixon, you have Josh Jacobs against that Denver team that he lit up the last time they faced each other several weeks back. Ramondre Stevenson at home against the New York Jets. That's certainly an interesting spot because you're looking at someone like Damian Harris. He was out with an illness the game prior to that. But when they faced the New York Jets in week 8, when he was active, he did still have 11 carries. My guess is that Stevenson is still the top dog here. There's no reason to suggest now that he wouldn't be. But if Damian Harris is active and healthy, I can't just sit back and assume that it's going to be all Stevenson. The benefit to Stevenson has been that he's gotten a ton of pass catching opportunities, 7+ targets in 3 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like he gets the past 8 games, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, the past 7 games, he's had at least double-digit carries, and then on top of that, he has such a big role in the receiving game. The past 3 games, 8, 7, 7 targets on top of 11, 16, and 15 carries. So even with Damian Harris active, I think Stevenson is pretty clearly the guy at this point. I think that he's overtaken Harris as the lead back on top of having that passing game role. So I'm not all that concerned with Damian Harris. It obviously hurts him a little bit if Harris is active, but I still think that Ramondre Stevenson is the guy, and he looks phenomenal in our tools. He's 6,700. We haven't projected for 16% ownership, 33% chance of being in the optimal lineup at 6,700. So Ramondre Stevenson is just, this looks like a smash spot according to our tools currently. Do we have Damian Harris in? I'm trying to find him here because that would actually make a difference probably if we have him projected out. And we don't have Damian Harris listed in the boom bust tool. So this might be assuming that Damian Harris is out. I still think that he's probably going to look like a Stevenson, that is going to look like a reasonable play, even with Harris in, just because he's still going to get enough volume and he is active enough in both the passing game and the rushing game. It is a little bit of a tough spot against a Jets defense that is stingy against both the rush and the pass. So not the best spot in the world. I guess I'm going to be paying attention to Damian Harris's status. What is he right now? Questionable?
Yeah, he's still questionable, but that was an illness. So I don't.
Right. So he's probably coming back.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, they were on a bye last week, the Patriots.
Right.
So I would think Damian Harris plays, but I don't know.
I would too. If it was an illness, then they had a bye. I'm with you. I'm thinking Damian Harris probably does play. So maybe our tools right now don't factor in Damian Harris, given that he's not in boom bust tool. So maybe I take it back. If Damian Harris is active, it's a really tough spot against this Jets defense. I think I'm going to be a lot less enthusiastic about it than I was just looking at the tools to start. If Damian Harris is active, if Damian Harris is out, Stevenson's still going to look great. But I think I'm with you. My assumption would be that Damian Harris comes back, so it is a little bit of a tough spot for me. I'm
definitely interested in a couple other guys here that are pulling. Yeah, I wouldn't say chalky. Like ownership maybe 12, 13%. I still don't want to get to Singletary there. He had a 2-touchdown game and was just okay. I get that at his price. It makes sense because he's inexpensive, but Jonathan Taylor intrigues me. I liked him a lot last week. I'll go back to him here. Of course, you're looking for a situation where the game doesn't get out of hand and the Colts defense can hold it together enough. But the offensive line looked a whole lot better last week. He by far had his best game of the season. And they're 6.5-point dogs at home, which is going to hurt, of course, but at the same time, if this game is competitive, here's the thing. The formula against the Eagles is to try and just dominate time of possession. We saw that last game. It was 40 minutes to 20 minutes in favor of the Commanders in Philly on Monday Night Football. They ran the ball 49 times in that game. You're not giving, you're not projecting Taylor for 30 carries, but if it's competitive, I can assure you that Jonathan Taylor against an inferior run defense for Philly is going to get a shit ton of work. So that interests me quite a bit this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as you there. I think that Jonathan Taylor is going to get just a ton of volume, as we saw in the first game with Jeff Saturday, just like rushing the ball a lot. Makes a lot of sense for this offense in general. And then you add in the fact that the Eagles are a run funnel defense, as we saw Brian Robinson just rush all over them. Certainly if Brian Robinson can do it, I would expect Jonathan Taylor to be able to have a game against this Eagles defense. So I'm with you. Jonathan Taylor, really interesting in a game where they're probably going to be running the ball a lot to keep the ball out of the Philadelphia offense's hands. Jonathan Taylor currently looks neutral in the tools, 12.3% projected ownership in the boom bust tool, 11.2% chance of being optimal. So slight negative leverage there, but I think the spot makes a lot of sense. If you have the salary, I'm perfectly willing to play Jonathan Taylor. I think it's a great spot.
Any other running backs you want to hit on here?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Saquon Barkley. I didn't really talk about him at all, but Saquon Barkley is certainly very interesting in a spot against the Lions. The Giants have a 24.5 implied team total. The Lions are 27th against the rush, 24th against the pass in terms of DVOA. So I like Saquon Barkley quite a bit. Yeah, Josh Jacobs, as you said, smashed in this spot the last time he played it. He's going to be interesting at relatively low ownership. We have projected for, I guess, 18.5% ownership. So we don't expect, we don't project him for that low of ownership, but still 19% optimal, slight positive leverage there. I think I'm with you on Devin Singletary, and the in the boom bust tool, he's projected for 14% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. As you said, 2 touchdowns, I think, in the first quarter in the last game for the Bills. I actually had a ton of Devin Singletary, so I was pretty pumped at that point before my day completely fell apart on Sunday. So didn't work out. And I think that this is a spot where I'm less inclined to go back to it. Kamara looks pretty interesting, 13% projected ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. Have to like that. Pollard, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to whether Zeke plays. Kind of hard to make that call now. Zeke is going to look good once again if he does play. Yeah, I'm trying to find if there are any like really sneaky, interesting options among the cheaper guys, and I'm not finding anybody that jumps out as somebody I love here.
It's a tough week for that, unless you want to go like Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson, and it's a good matchup, but that's not an easy spot to try and figure out which one it's going to be. And you're not getting them at like huge discounts either. So no, there's not a lot there. I mean, I think David Montgomery is the best one of that price range.
Yeah, I skipped over. I actually like David Montgomery. I liked him a lot this week. And of course it didn't work out. He had the carry on the 1 yard line. That broke my heart. David Montgomery has the chance at the 1 yard line with 20 seconds left. And then of course they go to Fields, who I had 0% of. Yeah, that was rough.
Fade on Fields.
Full fade. It wasn't actually totally my plan to full fade Fields, but I did end up doing that and regretting it. What about so David Montgomery? Once again, I'm going to like him. He is, I think, once again going to be leverage against. I still expect Fields to be chalky. We only have him projected for 11% ownership, which might be right at this 7,600 price tag, but I would not be surprised to see it double that. In which case, I think David Montgomery will be interesting as leverage once again. And then what about your boy, Miles Sanders? Looks pretty good in the tools. Do you have any interest there?
It's too expensive for me right now. He had one carry in the first half last game.
That's right.
When Miles Sanders is reasonably priced, I'm going to be all over it for sure. But I would honestly rather have David Montgomery. I'll tell you why. He's $900 cheaper. Both are rushing quarterbacks. Of course, right now Justin Fields is doing a whole lot more with his legs because he needs to. But that game has a 50.5 point total, right? Like Atlanta's defense is nothing to be concerned about. The Chicago Bears have just made for shootout conditions, whether it's through air or on the ground. Montgomery's still playing 70% of snaps each week. That is with Khalil Herbert active. Right. Now you're talking about Blasingame. Like that's your backup. We've seen Montgomery out in the past. When that is the case, Khalil Herbert gets a ton of work.
You mean the reverse there, but yeah.
What did I say?
You said with Montgomery about Herbert.
No. That's what I meant, actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What I'm saying is because I don't believe Herbert's missed any games this season, right?
Okay.
No. So with Montgomery out, you're talking about Eberflus going to a straight, like no committee approach anymore. Just go to one running back. I don't see why he wouldn't do that this week with David Montgomery. So in week 3, Montgomery went down early. Khalil Herbert had 20 carries. In week 4, David Montgomery was out. Khalil Herbert had 19 carries. There's nothing to suggest, especially given that Herbert has had 12, 16, 7, and 10 attempts over the last 4 games. To me, there's nothing to suggest that Montgomery doesn't get, upwards of 20 carries in a game like this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. With Khalil Herbert out, especially against this Atlanta Falcons defense, plus the leverage on Justin Fields, I'm going to like David Montgomery quite a bit. Okay, I skipped over him because I think the Bears are just omitted from the boom bust tool currently. That's something that I know people are working on in the background.
Yeah, because they're like has him playing in Germany or something.
Oh, is that right? They have them in the Munich game. Okay,
they're not playing in Germany. I think the tools are for some reason pulling it from as a Germany game. I don't know.
Okay, well, that will get solved. But in the meantime, I think despite that, I think David Montgomery is going to look like a great play. I'm going to like playing him quite a bit with this leverage spot with Khalil Herbert out. All signs point to David Montgomery being a great play. Okay, now I see him. We do have him at 9.6% projected ownership, 6.7% chance of being optimal. I still think I'm going to be willing to eat that against this Atlanta defense.
Me too. And it's not like Montgomery. This offense definitely looks different, but it's not like Montgomery hasn't seen games with a decent amount of targets in the past. They've kind of gone away from that lately while they're innovating this offense. But I like him. Any other running backs, or you want to talk wide receivers? I don't see a lot of. Usually we list a lot of low-owned backs, like at least 4 or 5 that we can get into. There's not a lot out there. The only other guy I wrote down, and this is more just to hear your opinion on it because I talked about it yesterday. Najee Harris is 5,500 at 4% ownership right now. What are your thoughts there? 4.5 point dogs at home against the Bengals.
Yeah, not a huge fan. I don't think I'm going to be going to a lot of Najee Harris. We did see, I think Jaylen Warren took on more of a role. Of course, I guess the Steelers were just running it all game. So
yeah,
Najee Harris still did have a big role.
20 carries, I think.
Yeah, so he did have, makes it a little bit tougher. I think that there were rumors that Jaylen Warren was going to really cut into that and maybe become the starter. And then, of course, Najee Harris has 20 carries. So make of that what you will. He still didn't have that incredible of a game. I think he broke off like a 36-yard rush, which has to be one of his longest of the season. It's going to be hard for me to want to play a ton of Najee Harris against the Bengals in particular. It's a little bit of a tough spot there.
And good point, Eric. Yeah, Najee, they don't expect him to miss. At least Tomlin said they don't expect Najee to miss this game, but he's dealing with knee discomfort, which generally doesn't bode well for running backs.
Right. What about Jamal Williams? How does he look in the boom?
Yeah, a lot of people in chat talking about him.
Really? Yeah. I mean, it's a great spot against that Giants defense. I mean, we like Saquon Barkley. It's the same game environment. It's a bad defense for the Giants as well. Let me find Jamal Williams. I had to refresh my boom bust tool. So I want to see what our ownership looks like there. But just from a matchup standpoint, it looks like a great spot for Jamal Williams.
He does get all the goal line
We
work.
have
It's
him.
just he's so touchdown dependent. Like if Jamal Williams is not in the end zone twice, you're probably not getting there.
Yeah, I mean he is, I think, the lead back at this point, though. Like, just DeAndre
for
Swift
sure.
is clearly very banged up, probably going to be for the remainder of the year. I mean, you don't think that Jamal Williams has a 100-yard game in his potential outcomes?
I guess he does. I guess he does.
16 carries this past week.
Yeah, 24 the
I
week.
have some interest, but what is his price tag? That's the other part of this equation. 6,000. I think that's reasonable enough. We've got him at 3.7% projected ownership, 3.9% optimal. So very neutral. I think I'd rather go there than to Najee, though. I'd rather go to Jamal Williams.
Sure. And hey, to be fair, he has 4 multi-touchdown games on the season. So It's not to say that he can't do it at all.
Yep.
Talk some wide receivers here. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. Hey, this is the best way to get involved in a million different ways for a million ways that benefit you. What do I mean? One, you sign up at PrizePicks, you take advantage of an awesome format, especially if you're in non-legal betting states. You're just taking player props, building lineups. There's no juice on either side. You're just over or under on a million different props for a million different sports. You don't have to choose from other. You can filter football if you just want to do football. You're building 5-player lineups or 4 or 3. But if you do 5 and you hit all 5, you 10x your entry. You hit 4 or 5, unlike a traditional book, you're still 2xing. You're still making double your entry. You even make money back on 3 of 5. Very cool format there. They have the power play too, where if you want to do 4 per player lineup, 4 prop lineup, you hit all 4 and you 10x. Of course, though, if you only hit 3, you don't make any money. But still, a lot of ways to sustain your bankroll, make money on top of that. Take advantage of being able to get in on the player prop parlay action. I know they call it lineups there, but you guys get the point. And also, if you like different sports like college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA, you can mix them all into the same lineup. That's probably the coolest thing about that, what they've got going on over there. You get a $100 first match deposit bonus. Okay. $100 first match deposit bonus when you sign up using the link that we have in the description or the one that Tyler can put in the chat. And on top of all that, 1 month free of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. Every single tool on our site, every single tool that we have for every single sport is entirely free for the entire month, including our Discord, including ownership, top stack tool, boom bust that Neil was referencing, top plays tool, top stacks, everything. Player projections for all of these sports, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, MMA, NASCAR, PGA, all of that. So you're getting up to $100 first match deposit bonus. You're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. You're getting to take advantage of an awesome platform as well. Again, especially if PrizePicks is available in your state where sportsbooks probably aren't. Links in the description and in the chat. Check it out. PrizePicks, sponsor of the Strategy Show. Very cool site. And you're getting the free month, all of our tools entirely for free. All right. Wide receiver position. This is an odd slate. You're just not seeing anybody get a ton of ownership. I personally thought that there were a couple of guys that'd be higher owned than they are right now, but we'll see how this evolves throughout the week. But Neil, you're talking Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson, Pittman, Moore, Adams, McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all of these guys above 10%, but it's pretty flat for the most part. I will say I love CeeDee Lamb this week. He's just objectively underpriced.
Yeah, I think that Cowboys stack in general is going to be one I'm going to go to against the Vikings defense. I was kind of shocked today looking at the DVOA on Football Outsiders. Vikings defense now looking middling after giving up 30 points to the Bills last week. Somehow they have improved in terms of pass DVOA and rush DVOA, but I still don't really trust that defense despite how good they've been. I mean, the Vikings just keep winning, but I don't think it's the defense that is keeping them ahead of other teams. I think I'm going to be really interested in that Cowboys stack, and certainly CeeDee Lamb is going to be a big part of it. We have Lamb projected for 18% ownership, 14% chance of being in the optimal at 7,500. But particularly in game stacks, I think that's a spot that I'm willing to go to. I'm also willing to go to the other side of that. I'll probably have some Viking stacks against the Cowboys as well. Justin Jefferson, 9,100. We project for 15% ownership, 11% chance of being optimal. So some negative leverage on both of these guys. But if you want to stack up that game, I think that both are going to be viable. You might just have to get away from the chalk a little bit elsewhere. Like both of those guys quite a bit. The player who really stands out to me among those with 10% or more ownership is Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,200. We've got him projected for 10.4% ownership, 18.3% chance of being optimal. We saw him get there last week without even scoring a touchdown, just because he had 10 receptions for 119 yards. So like, he doesn't even need the touchdown to get there. He has so much volume. And I think that, they're going to be going right back to him against a bad Giants defense this week, 23rd against the pass in terms of DVOA, 23rd against the rush. So the Lions should be able to score. If you're not wanting to go to Jamal Williams, maybe it makes some sense to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know you and Ben talked about him yesterday a little bit. It sounded like you're on the same page with me, that you like some Sun God there.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I like CeeDee Lamb more. There's a few I like T. Higgins a little bit more at 7%, but I do agree with you that he's going to get, the lion's share of opportunities in the passing game. There's no denying that. I wouldn't say he's my favorite play, but yeah, 10% makes total sense. I have no issues with that. I think T. Higgins is interesting. You haven't seen, because he's getting only 7.5% right now. You haven't seen a big game for T. Higgins since Jamar Chase was sidelined. But it's weird because last week, or they had a bye last week, but in week 9, their last game, it was all Joe Mixon. The offense through the passing game didn't need to do anything. And then against Cleveland, the whole offense was completely anemic. They had nothing working for them. They didn't really score a meaningful point in the entirety of that game. Yet still in both of them, and he did score a touchdown late in that game, but still in both of them, he still had 13 and 14 fantasy points. I'm not saying that's going to get you there. It's not. But let's not ignore the fact that if Higgins is really 7%, and sure, Pittsburgh's defense is playing better, he's still their number one receiver. Tyler Boyd's had some games, but he's still their number one receiver. There's no doubt about that. He could be a number one on a lot of teams. So Higgins, maybe the price is scaring people off a little, or will scare people off a little bit, but I definitely am interested in him this week at 7%.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure on Higgins. I think that it's a small sample size thing. Like, we've seen him fail with Jamar Chase out. That's clearly not going to be our expectation, though. I think that, as you say, he is the very clear number one option. And as you say, he also would be, he's a very talented receiver. He would be the number one option on a majority of NFL teams, I think. So I'm going to like T. Higgins quite a bit in this matchup with the Steelers. They are 18th against the pass. In terms of DVOA, the Bengals have a 22.75 implied team total. T. Higgins is just going to project really well for his salary, even at 7,100, considering he's the number one receiver now with no Jamar Chase. 8% projected ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. Sign me up for that against this Steelers defense. I'm with you there.
Let's hit on a super chat here. Kittle I'm assuming there's a season long. Kittle at Arizona or Schultz. So Dalton Schultz at Minnesota this week. Oof. Both of these games are the one of these games is prime time, right? I believe Monday night, Monday night between San Francisco and Arizona. Yeah.
Okay.
I would still go Kittle here personally, but
I mean, for me, I answer all these questions by just looking at projections. So I'm pulling that up right now. It was Kittle or Schultz.
Yeah.
So on DraftKings, so this is assuming full PPR. We could also use the player compare tool here. This would be an ideal spot to use that player compare tool, because I'm
very true.
Maybe they need to be from the same contest. So we have Schultz projected for 9.2 fantasy points. I don't see Kittle here, probably because he's the island game, but I would assume that it's higher than 9.2. So I'm with you. I'd go with Kittle there. Yeah.
Schultz had a nice game last time out. I know people in chat throughout the week were talking about him, so that's solid. Hopefully you got there with that. AJ Brown's interesting to me this week because he's in that price point that honestly, I was surprised that he was getting even close to 10%. I thought he would be getting less than that. because he's coming off a 1 reception game, kind of volatile in that offense, but he has massive upside. We saw the 3 touchdown game in the first half, not that, what was it, a few weeks back against Pittsburgh. He's interesting. What do you make of the wide receivers though for the Rams with Cooper Kupp? Cooper Kupp is getting almost a third of every target on that team this season, and now he's off the field.
Yeah, it opens up a lot. Who do we want to go to? We actually have Ben Skowronek looks phenomenal in the tools at 3,900. We have him projected for 4.3% ownership, 8.2% chance of being optimal. That really surprised me. I don't think of Ben Skowronek as being the guy. Maybe I need to relook at the wide receiver core for the Rams. Maybe it's just the price tag too is the reason that he's optimal more frequently. Allen Robinson up at 5,600. Again, positive leverage, 1.4% ownership, 2% optimal. Van Jefferson, 1.2% ownership, 2.5% optimal. I kind of want to look at, I'm going to pull up the Rams snap counts here because now I'm curious why Skowronek looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be involved in the offense. He's not expensive.
98% of snaps in the last game for Ben Skowronek. Okay, I missed that.
Yeah,
that is, and that was with Cooper Kupp playing 67% of snaps. So, yeah, I guess I did not realize how high on this depth chart Ben Skowronek was right now.
He's not very good, but he's cheap.
He has
and
not
value is hard to come by this week.
Yeah, given the 3,900 price tag, he looks great in the tools. Again, 98% of snaps last week. That was a season high by 10%. So, yeah, I think Skowronek probably going to get more volume in the passing game with Cooper Kupp out, I would assume. I still don't really think that he's necessarily the first option for Matthew Stafford. I'd be more likely to play him if Matthew Stafford is active. I don't know how much interest I'm going to have with John Wolford if he is the quarterback again this week, but assuming Stafford is active, all 3 of them actually we have positive leverage on all of them. I've been falling for this Rams offense, stacking it all year. I'm probably going to go back to it at least in some capacity if Matthew Stafford is available.
So weird that he's still in concussion protocol. And it just happened midweek last week. Very odd.
Yeah.
Very, very odd. Like, I don't know. Are you intentionally not playing the guy? It's hard to say. If Matthew Stafford's out, I don't want anything from this team.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to be on the same. Clearly, we're not playing the running backs. Although Darrell Henderson finally did have a pretty solid game this past week. Once I was like, okay, maybe I'll play a little Kieran Williams. They just go to Darrell Henderson in volume, and he has a pretty good game. But yeah, I don't see myself going to the Rams offense with John Wolford at quarterback.
I have an interesting one here. I think Courtland Sutton's very viable this week. Now, there's also a possibility that we don't see Jerry Jeudy either. They're saying he shouldn't miss extended time from the reports that I saw, but that just means you're not expected to miss a lot of time. It could definitely mean that you're still missing a week. Honestly, even if he were to play, I still have interest in Sutton. But if Judy's out, Courtland Sutton would probably it's not going to feel good. I'll tell you that much. But I am a truther when it comes to Courtland Sutton. I know Ben mentioned yesterday he is as well. Amazingly has 1 touchdown on the season, hasn't scored since week 4. It was against this Raiders team, which is good. But generally speaking, this whole offense is a shit show. But Sutton at 6K, nice little kind of lower mid-range price point here against the Vegas team. That the wheels have completely fallen off that team, both offensively and defensively. Courtland Sutton to me is a guy that pulling low ownership right now. Of course, that probably changes, but I'm not sure how much if Judy's out. I really do have interest there.
Yeah, I think people are just down on this offense in general. I think the Russell Wilson effect, everybody's like, I can't be playing Broncos. I'm with you. I expect Jerry Jeudy to miss this game. I think the latest that I've seen is he has a chance to play this weekend, which to me is the same as like doubtful, right?
Agreed.
Like maybe a 10-20% chance of playing, but pretty unlikely that he plays this weekend. So I think it's going to be Courtland Sutton by himself as far as top tier receivers for the Broncos, facing a terrible Raiders defense, 32nd in terms of pass DVOA. I didn't realize that they were bottom of the league at this point. So as good a matchup as you can get. If Russell Wilson is ever going to have a game, it's going to be here. I guess it hurts him that he is missing one of his best receivers, but certainly helps Courtland Sutton. And Courtland Sutton, even with Jerry Jeudy in right now in the boom bust duel. Cortland Sutton, 5% projected ownership, 10% chance of being optimal. Presumably, as you said, if Judy is out, I think both of those numbers go up. The ownership is obviously going to go up too, but I think his odds of being in the optimal will go up as well. So yeah, it's hard not to love Cortland Sutton here. Maybe this is one of the last times that I'll actually roll out some Denver stacks as well, while we can do it with Judy out, and maybe I'll throw out a Kendall Hinton in there as well. Actually, man, Kendall Hinton looks terrible. 7.6% projected ownership, 0.1% chance of being optimal. So maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe we go to KJ Hamler or Greg Dulcich if we want to do that stack. Might be better options than Kendall Hinton, even though he had the game this week.
Jalen Virgil with his first career anything last week, touchdown, long reception, played 30% of snaps. Tyree Cleveland played 30%. Hinton was out there for 96% of snaps. So there's that. But yeah, Judy only played one snap in that game, which this is a situation to watch for sure as the week progresses. Because some things might, as bad as this and ugly as this team has been, things might open up a little bit. For me, it's probably Sutton and Dulcich. Like that would probably be it for me. And Dulcich is getting some ownership. I'm not sure on such a bad offense with how bad they've been that I want to dig too much deeper, but we'll see. We'll see what the tools say as we go forward in the week. And also 3 free days. If you guys are looking to get in on that, 3 free days, all of our NFL content, just use the link in the description or the one in chat. Get you 3 days, everything for free for our NFL product. No strings attached whatsoever. If you don't like it, you can bounce afterwards, but I think you will like it. Any other wide receivers you want to talk about that aren't getting any ownership right now?
Yeah, so I think those are the primary receivers. I did talk about I'm going to like some Dak stacks this weekend. I think Noah Brown looks kind of interesting at 3,700, 5.6% projected ownership, 6.6% chance of being optimal. I do like that a bit. Maybe you could throw some Michael Gallup in there as well, but for the most part, that'll be more so in Dallas stacks in particular. As far as we talked about him on route, Garrett Wilson popping in the tools, 6.7% projected ownership, 15.3% chance of being optimal at 4,900. That kind of stands out to me. Not the best spot in the world. The Patriots defense is actually second against the pass, 21st against the rush. So it's a tough spot for Garrett Wilson, but the price is right. The volume is right. He looks phenomenal in the boom bust tool. Man, Jacoby Myers on the other side of that game, 2.6% projected ownership, 14.6% chance of being optimal at 5,500. I guess he looks with Devontae Parker out. He's looking pretty good as well. I'd say those are the guys that really stand out to me. Maybe some interest in Terry McLaurin. We going back to Wan'Dale Robinson?
I prefer not to.
Against the Giants, against the Lions, though. It's I think I probably will. I would prefer not to too, but we don't have that many great options, and such a great spot. He's 4,600 now, 5.8% projected ownership, 8.7% chance of being optimal. I think I'm going to have to go back to Wan'Dale Robinson.
I understand it. I do. This team just, they don't want to throw the ball either. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if Daniel Jones' volume is up, last game, 17 attempts. I mentioned this all week. Like they're not going to throw if they don't have to. And they certainly didn't have to against that horrible Houston offense. I'm saying the Houston offense just can't put points on the board. They're not going to create really a tight environment there. Let's talk about tight ends. This does get very interesting. One last thing for you guys, though. If PrizePicks isn't available to you and you're banging your head against the wall and you're going, I was trying to get that free month. I was trying to get a $100 first match deposit bonus. Why can't I have good things? Well, you can't, because if PrizePicks isn't available to you, BetMGM probably is. And when you sign up with the link in the description, again, all links in the description or in the chat, and follow those directions, you're not getting 1, but 2 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. How about that? And that's going away. I just talked to our CFO and I were discussing this the other day. We're in talks with them to make this 1 month, not 2 months. So take advantage of it now if you haven't done so yet. 2 months, all of our tools that I mentioned before, everything on the site. If you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. And El Negro Loco said neither MGM or PrizePicks offered in Connecticut. Yeah, I mean, that sucks because I think it's 42 states that one or the other is available. And if you're in one of those 8 states, it sucks. But most of you have an opportunity to get in on one of these. BetMGM, 2 free months and while it may not be a first match deposit bonus, it's up to $1,000 risk-free bet. Now it only has to be $10. All you have to do when you follow the steps in the link is take $10 or more if you want, especially if you want to take advantage of that risk-free bet where you get your money back if you lose. Is follow it, deposit $10, sign up using the link. Otherwise, we can't find you and we can't give you the 2 free months, and bet anything. Once that bet settles, you'll hear from BetMGM. They'll tell you how to get the 2 free months. So do that. Make sure to take advantage of the risk-free bet in the link. Make sure to get your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum as well. All right. Let's get into tight ends here. I'm actually surprised that Andrews is as popular as he is, because with such little value, man, it seems difficult to pay a premium for tight end this week, but it doesn't seem like I'm on the right path there.
Yeah, he looks, I mean, it's a great spot against
and
the
that's
Panthers.
Assuming he plays too, by the way.
That is. Clearly we need to know that he's playing. If he's not, then I think Isaiah Likely will probably be kind of interesting again against this Panthers defense. They're 27th against the pass, 22nd against the rush. Ravens have a 28 implied team total. I mean, Andrews was just, aside from, I think, just one game, he was just such a beast while he's been active this year. I mean, early in the year, he just got so many targets aside from that one game where he only had a rush for like 4 yards. That was like his only stat in the game. Maybe there's another one besides that, but in general, he's just been such a beast that I get it. I think that I'm probably willing to pay up for Mark Andrews and bet on him coming back to that form from earlier in the year. He's 6,800, so he's cheaper than, we've typically been seeing Travis Kelce. I get it. 17% ownership, 19% chance to be an optimal. So we have positive leverage there. I'm probably going to lean into it and play some Mark Andrews if he stays at 17%.
Okay. Dulcich to me does look very good here, assuming Judy's out. Schultz, what's that?
Me too. I'm with you.
Yeah. 3,800. Dulcich looks good. Foster Moreau, whatever. If Stafford plays, I'm definitely going to be playing Higbee. I know that for a fact. I know it's been ugly lately. Last game's a wash because if it's John Walford, I'm out. Maybe Bryce Perkins starts that game. That would be really interesting because the guy can run. If he were to start that game, I wouldn't want Higbee. I wouldn't really want any pass catchers, but man, that would make things super interesting at $4,000. You want to talk about opening some things up. Minimum salary, Bryce Perkins for the Rams. Talking quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was like, wait, Bryce Perkins, is that one of those backup tight ends? Because I feel like they have a backup tight end with the same
Bryce
name.
Hopkins.
I thought you were talking about
Bryson Hopkins. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's who I was thinking of. I don't know anything about Bryce Perkins.
He's got wheels. He can move.
Interesting. Yeah, if we can get the 4,000 quarterback who can run, that'll be something we have to talk about later on in the week. I'll be doing a strategy show on Saturday as well, so if we get that news, I'll be able to talk about that a little bit more. I'll do a little bit more digging, but yeah, for the most part though, I'm going to have more interest in Tyler Higbee if we do have Matthew Stafford. Clearly with Cooper Kupp out, looks phenomenal. 6.2% projected ownership, 9.6% optimal. Greg Dulcich, as you said, we like those Denver stacks, I think, a little bit this week. I think you and I are both sort of interested in that with Jerry Jeudy out. Just a relative value option in a great spot against the Raiders. I could definitely, I'm definitely interested in some Dulcich. Pat Freiermuth looks good against the Bengals, 9.4% projected ownership, 13.4% chance to be an optimal. I got to talk about TJ Hawkinson too. We've got him at 3.4% ownership, 8.3% chance to be an optimal. He's 5,300. So he is, not the cheapest. He is, I think, maybe the second most expensive tight end on the slate, but 9 and 10 targets in his 2 games with the Vikings. Now he's in a great passing offense and he's being targeted a lot. I think that TJ Hawkinson may be on his way to being elite. Now that might be a little bit of homerism, maybe it's wishful thinking, but 9 and 10 targets in his past 2 games. I think he's got the talent. So I'm pretty interested in TJ Hawkinson for the Vikings. Do you have any interest there?
He's getting a boatload of opportunities. I get it. I actually have no issues with that whatsoever. That's an interesting one. You're looking at a guy who just maybe Dallas does what they can, not to say it's easy, but to, take somebody like Justin Jefferson, you're never going to take him out of a game, but to limit him a little bit, you might definitely be looking at a big game from TJ Hawkinson on the horizon here. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Look, all you can ask for in an event like this is opportunity. This game has a pretty high total. could definitely shoot out. 19 targets in his first 2 games with the Vikings. Mind you, Kirk Cousins, when throwing to his tight end, was ranked like dead last or second to last in the league in every category this year before Hockenson came in. And now you're seeing him really kind of really change the landscape of that position when it comes to the Vikings. He hasn't had big games yet, but as long as you're getting that type of volume, that type of target share, I like it for sure.
Yeah, you gotta buy in before the field does there.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then look, Jack Stahl, if you just need straight discount, this isn't good. It's not fun, but at least you're talking about a good football team. You know, this isn't like going to a $2,500 Houston tight end where there's 3 of them. Maybe one of them's inactive, but it doesn't really matter. Bad passing offense, Davis Mills. This is at least one of those situations where you go, hey, they got a 25-point implied total. They could put some points on the board. They like targeting their tight ends in the red zone. So, yeah, there's nothing exciting about Jack Stahl, but at that price point, I think it's entirely reasonable to go $2,500, just punting that if you're going chalk or if you're going higher priced everywhere else. I don't think Hayden Hurst is crazy with Jamar Chase out. So there's some options here. It's not the worst position we've seen.
Yeah, it's funny how often I feel like I like so many tight ends, even though it's like the worst position. Like most of these guys are probably going to fail, but you can see paths to so many of them succeeding. I'm with you on Jack Stoll. I think, they Hurts has been targeting Goddard a lot. Obviously, Stoll is not Goddard, but if he steps into that role, at least to some extent, he's probably going to see some targets, and he's 2,500. So I'm definitely going to have interest there. Dalton Schultz. I mean, I think he's interesting enough. Against the Vikings, I'll have some Dalton Schultz at 4,300. Yeah, Hayden Hurst for sure looks actually great against the Steelers. 3.3% ownership, 7.9% chance of being optimal. So he looks great as well. We've got some good options. Maybe this is the last time I said that it was a double tight end week for me. I thought I was going to get a good amount of it. It also happened to come down on like National Tight Ends Day, and they all failed. So maybe they're all going to fail again. We never really know with these tight ends, but I think that this might be another week where I'm probably going to end up with a few more double tight end builds than usual, just because I think that there are some of the better value options this week.
All right, last question for you, and an important one at that. What are you doing with Cole Kmet?
I mean, he came in at 14% ownership last week. What's his price tag at? I got
4,100.
And what's his ownership?
Not a lot, like 6% or something.
I don't know if I'm buying that. I think that he's
got to be more popular than that.
If he comes in at 6% ownership, we still have negative leverage on that. We've got him at 6% ownership, 3% chance of being optimal. Obviously, the matchup is great against the Falcons. He's been crushing it, and his price tag has not come up enough to like make him unplayable. At 6%, I'm probably not going to be too far under the field. My expectation is that his ownership will actually be higher than that, maybe 10%. And at that point, I think that I'm going to be fading to something. My guess I'll be 3 or 4% Cole Kmet where the field is. My guess would be 10%, but even at 6%, it's a slight fade for me, just because you got to look at the larger body of work. I feel like it's a little bit chasing right now. Of course, the matchup is great again, so it's hard to really argue with it too much. He did have 7 targets the last game. You can poke holes in it, but I mean, he's been strong. It may be that the Bears just have finally figured out how to use their best players with Fields and Kmet. But I think that I'm probably going to be single digits for sure, probably under this 6% mark.
Take a look at our top stacks tool before we get out of here. Appreciate you guys hanging with us as always. Hit the thumbs up. Well, if you haven't done so, I know there's a few of you out there that are holding back on us. Just takes a single second if you haven't done so yet, and subscribe to the channel as well. Appreciate all of you for your support throughout this NFL season. All right, but let's talk about the top stacks tool. We have the Falcons rated pretty high. I mean, that seems crazy. Buffalo with the highest top stack probability by a mile. Minnesota. I was talking about our rating with Atlanta, but Minnesota's up there. Baltimore up there with nice positive leverage. Philly, you got the Hurts stack with some positive leverage. Cincinnati. It looks like a lot of these are all kind of positive leverage stacks here at the top.
Yeah, we've got some interesting options. Atlanta, as you said, 4.2% 2% projected ownership for Mariota, 4.5% chance to be in the top stack, but then a 9.9% chance to be in the top value stack. It's just such a cheap stack against a bad Bears defense. Mariota has not shown me much reason to have confidence in him, but against this Bears defense, and he can run. So I don't hate playing some Falcon stacks. So that's one that we didn't talk about. I haven't really given a lot of thought to, but the matchup is right. I guess I missed them because, again, they're not in the boom bust duel. So they didn't come across my page. But I think that I'm going to have some interest in Atlanta. Buffalo, as you said, 10% ownership on Allen, 17% chance of being top stack, looks good. Both quarterbacks, you can stack it either way in the Minnesota Dallas game. Kirk Cousins, 4.4% ownership, 9.3% chance of being the top stack. Dallas, 4.9% ownership on Dak, 5.5% chance to be in the top stack. We talked about Denver, 4.3% ownership on Russ, 5.8% chance to be in the top stack, 7.8% chance to be in the top value stack. And that's with Jerry Jeudy in there, presumably. So I think that the value stack odds are going to look even better if Jeudy is out. So I think that's going to be an interesting spot. Yeah, we've got some certainly interesting stacks this week. Yeah, would have had some interest in Danny Dimes. We've got him at 9.3% ownership, 3.1% chance to be in the top stack, 6% chance to be in the top value stack. So harder for me to get there at that ownership.
Jeez, that seems crazy. I definitely like Dallas and Minnesota, both sides of that game. Cincinnati's always intriguing to me because Pittsburgh is the type of team that they could come out there and defensively, you know what? Maybe they shut you down. It's possible. We've seen them do it. I don't really count last week when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, just completely inept offense, but Cincinnati is just one of those teams where you have no idea what you're getting from them from week to week. It's really felt that way, even since the beginning of the season in week 1 in this very matchup at home against the Steelers. They've been all over the map. You know, they get blown out by the Browns. They come back, they demolish Carolina, and you needed to have Joe Mixon. You know, Joe Burrow is very good. Higgins is very good. You have Boyd, you have Hayden Hurst. There's some ways to play that one that I like. And John in chat, what's up, John? Did mention earlier an interesting point. We can close the show on this. I'd like to get your opinion on it. That he was going to go heavy Lamar over Fields, which, you know, you look at recent performance, obviously Fields is the guy that's getting all of the attention. Lamar Jackson hasn't had a big game since like week 3, but we know that he can. And Ben was talking about this yesterday. We know that he can. The 12-point favorites, maybe they just run the ball down opponents' throats. My only concern with that, and then you can close the show out, is last week or before the bye week, that Monday Night Football game against the Saints, there were like 11 different pass catchers that had a reception for Baltimore, and no one had more than 2 receptions. So with Rashad Bateman out, I need to know that Mark Andrews is back. Otherwise, I would have to run Lamar Jackson without anyone, and even that would concern me, because I think you just might see a ton of Kenyon Drake and Gus Edwards if he's back.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting call on Baltimore. Now John is saying Andrews.
Wait, is Andrews out? Is he confirmed out?
Or
he said if Andrews is out. Okay, yeah, correct.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, you could still potentially play him with Isaiah Likely in that scenario, but yeah, I definitely am going to have more interest if Andrews is in there. 4% projected ownership, 8.7% chance of being the top stack, 5.4% chance of being the top value stack. I think that it's probably a skinny stack for me if I'm playing Lamar, but yeah, if Andrews is in there, I'm going to have some interest for sure in Lamar with Andrews. He looks great. Anytime you can get Lamar Jackson at 4% ownership, you got to take it against a pretty bad defense as well. And then there was one more that you mentioned. Oh yeah, Cincinnati. You brought up Cincinnati. We talked about T. Higgins. Certainly has a talent. Joe Burrow has a talent. I'm with you on doing maybe Hayden Hurst, maybe some Tyler Boyd, some double stacks there as well.
Hey, follow Neil at PlayerQ DFS. Before we go, tell everybody what you got going on this week. I think it's important to keep the people apprised of all of your adventures here at the Stokastic YouTube channel, over at stokastic.com. What do we got going on people can check out?
Recording high stakes in a couple hours. Tomorrow I've got all my usual showdown content with my VODs for Fantasy Crunch, my article, and then live before lock. Friday I'll be with Alex on the contrary. Saturday, I've got a strategy show, and I keep forgetting to mention this. I'm now doing Sunday Night Football live before lock as well. So if you're interested in playing some Sunday Night Football showdown, check me out there too.
Beautiful. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Tyler for producing this one. Remember, like I said, if you're in one of those 42 states where you can get in on either PrizePicks or BetMGM, you want to play on some great sites, you want to get free months too at MGM, to Stokastic.com, Stokastic Plus Platinum. Links are in the description. And if you just want to check out 3 free days over on our site, you can do that as well. It's down there too. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Marathon matchup show. Every game for the main slate. We're breaking them down in depth. We'll see you there. Peace.